Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. President. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller. Here. Division 5, Robert Paris.
Here. He's a nice lady.
Division 4, George Lane.
Feeding get our dinner ready, and
I'll try to
Could you mute your microphone?
but my grooming table has come apart and I can't move it and put it back together.
I'll fix it.
It's in the garage.
Pardon me, but could you please mute your microphone if you're not being asked to call roll? Go ahead, Holly.
Thank you. Division 1, Shelley Sourceable.
Here.
Division 3, Frank Donato.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Wayne Chisholm.
Here.
James Markman.
Here.
And Holly Hughes present.
Thank you. Item 3, voluntary public roll call. If any member of the public wishes to introduce themselves, please feel free to do so now.
White Fence,
Hi, Vince.
White Fence 3, Jack Cephas.
Hi, Jack.
John, you could say White Fence Farms 1 and 2.
Hi, John.
Hi, Keith. This is John Joyce reporting for the Superior Court adjudicated Lake Los Angeles News.
Welcome, John. Thank you. Anyone else? Item 4, public comments and period open to the public. If anyone wishes to address the board on any item not on the agenda, please feel free to do so now. Hearing none, we'll move along to item 5. Do I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
This is Director Sourceable. I'll move to accept tonight's agenda.
Thank you.
This is Director Miller. I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you. Item 6, consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's consent calendar?
This is Director Sourceable. I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you.
This is Director Donato. I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, measure passes. Thank you. Item 7A, High Desert Water Bank and Water Bank Resources Committee. Director Donato, do you have a report?
Yeah, yes, we do. Well, the committee met on this to consider possible action on the project, High Desert Water Bank 20-01 change order, Pacific Coast Well drilling for $107,415. Budgeted engineering manager Justin will give us a presentation on this, or Dwayne or Matt, do you want to say something before, or just have Justin do it?
Yeah, for Director Donato, there'll be 4 items for board action here, and we'll try and accomplish those one at a time, so you can take an action on each particular item as you move forward. With that, Justin, if you want to give the staff report.
Great. Thank you, General Manager Chisholm. Good evening, President Dias, members of the board. We've got a monthly board report here on the High Desert Water Bank. There's several items to report on here. A general overview for members of the board who didn't receive this at the committee level. And within this presentation, I will pause and we'll go through the 4 action items listed in the agenda and the staff reports, which are also included in your packet. So starting off here with our executive summary, just remind everyone.
Excuse me, Justin. Justin, we're getting a lot of static. Holly, can you please mute everyone except for Justin for right now, please?
Done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Mine is still on though, right? Okay. So starting with the project objectives here at the top of this slide to remind everybody the goals of the project is to develop the High Desert Water Bank project to improve the reliability of state water project deliveries, as well as Avek's financial stability. The goal of the project is to recharge and recover up to 70,000 acre feet per year. And on the recovery side, that would be with a direct pump back to the state water project east branch of the California Aqueduct. With the overall storage goal on the site of 280,000 acre feet, of course, with the standard 10% leave behind or loss through the recharge process. Down below that, you can see some of the short-term goals over the next 3 months that we hope to complete. Continuing with some of the final land acquisitions process that the board is working with legal counsel on. And items 2, 3, and 4 there, starting construction on the Aqueduct Turnout. That's one of the items up for consideration tonight is to award that contract, and we'll get there shortly. Stantec is our engineering firm. They're working to complete the 100% design for the recharge basins, and we would hope to go out to bid for that shortly and award a construction contract to begin construction of those recharge basins. And that would be really the bulk of the work on the site. And we'll really start to see the site take shape once that contract gets underway. To the right-hand side, you can see the map of the High Desert Water Bank project, bounded on the west by 300th Street West, the east by 280th Street West, the north by Avenue A, the Kern County line, and on the south by the California Aqueduct. We've got some notable features of the project site listed there. The stars indicate the pilot recovery wells, which we just recently completed drilling, and we have some action for Pacific Coast well drilling on the agenda for tonight to close that contract out. And you can see the approximate location there indicated by the double-headed arrow for the turnout for the new aqueduct turnout to the site. So if there aren't any questions on that first slide, I'll move on. Here you can see kind of the organizational structure of the projects, the Avek there at the top. On the left-hand side, you see our project partner, Metropolitan Water District, who's funding the capital improvements of this project. And next to them, Kennedy Jenks, who's serving as our program manager for technical oversight on behalf of Avek, and then Stantec, our design team. Recent program management activity conducted by Kennedy Jenks includes review and comment on various levels of design for different aspects of the project that you can see listed there. They also reviewed some of the bids that were submitted for the turnout, as well as the well drilling package number 2. And they help us with their weekly, bi-weekly progress design meetings and help track the overall project progress. On the right-hand side, you can see the upcoming board decisions and actions. The top consists of the land acquisition process, and then items B through E are the items listed in your agenda packet for consideration tonight. So a change order and then notice of completion for Pacific Coast, awarding a construction contract for the Aqueduct Turnout, and the associated DWR agreement for that same turnout. Some engineering work that's been completed recently from Stantec. They assisted with addendum releases during the bid process for both the Aqueduct Turnout as well as the well drilling package that was we recently opened bids on, and completed the 90% deliverable for the recharge basins. As I mentioned, they're working towards 100% now. And they are reviewing data that was collected during the first set of wells that were drilled out there that we call the pilot recovery wells. 4 of those ultimately will be full production capacity wells done by Pacific Coast Well Drilling. So they're reviewing that data to incorporate into the groundwater model and update that in that effort. On the construction side, we're getting close to our first action item here. Pacific Coast Well Drilling has completed all work for the pilot recovery wells project. You can see a summary of the wells that were drilled during this first phase. You can see pilot recovery wells 1 through 4 listed on the left. We also have a deep monitoring well. Next to that, you can see the casing size, the screened depths that were estimated when we put the project out to bid. And then the final well depths are listed in the fourth column from the left, which the engineers designed the wells to those various screened depths once they got the subsurface data from the pilot hole drilling. So they analyzed the soils, the subsurface information, and determined that these wells could actually be screened more than what they had originally anticipated, which should ultimately provide us with better production on each of these 4 wells. So that's really good news. On the very right-hand side, you'll see some comments. The High Desert Water Bank Committee asked some good questions, and we responded to them, but they suggested that we include those answers to those questions in the comment section of this slide for the full board. And you can see there the estimated capacity. Comments really the same in each of the 4 wells. They all turned out really good. Based on the pump testing that they did in the field, they've all got estimated capacities around the goal, which was 1,800 gallons per minute. They did not encounter bedrock on the site, even though they drilled to 1,200 feet. And they did not encounter what's known here locally as the blue clay, which can indicate higher arsenic concentrations when you get down there. So just some notable comments there that the committee asked us to include within this presentation. Any comments or questions on this slide?
Yeah, this is Director Donato. The committee asked, was kind of a little bit concerned about change orders, and they explained that these type of change order, especially here drilling wells, that they do the best they can to estimate, and they don't know until they finally start drilling if there's going to be additional costs. And we felt that was, as a committee, was legitimate. Anything else on that, Justin?
No, that was a good summary. Yeah, as you indicated, it's best guess, but ultimately, once they see the soils underground, the engineers can make the best determination of what that final well should look like. And in this case, better.
This is Director Sourceable, and we also asked them to give us a range next time instead of just an estimate, so that we know what the highest amount we're approving versus what they anticipate. So if they have to go deeper, those funds will be available.
That's right. Yeah, and we will do that for the next time. Thanks, Director.
Thank you.
So moving on to the next slide, and this brings us to the first action item here, agenda item 7A1, consideration and possible action on change order 1 for Pacific Coast well drilling in the total amount of $107,415.75. A fairly low amount, 2% or so of the total contract price. So as change orders goes, it's not necessarily too bad. But you can start through the bullet points there. As I mentioned previously, Pacific Coast has completed all of their work. And during the drilling activity, the engineering team did a couple things. One, which we sort of just discussed, which was to add additional screened areas to this well a little deeper than what was anticipated. That's the final bullet point actually here, bullet point number 3. And those changes to the depths of the screens amounted to just under $18,000. So not a whole lot there. The other $89,628, we previously discussed this at board meetings over the last 6 months or so at various times. The engineers, once the subsurface data came in, they made a recommendation on an optimized gravel pack material. So when the contractor bid on this, there was a gravel pack material in that, and then they made the judgment call for the engineers to use a different gravel pack. So that amounted to the $89,000. And as I mentioned, that was previously discussed with the board. So that amount plus the $17,787 brings us to the total change order to clean this contract up and get it closed out to $107,415.75. And as Director Donato and Director Sorsabal mentioned, the committee went through this in detail. And the recommendation from the High Desert Water Bank Committee and staff is that the board would authorize change order number 1, increasing the contract award to Pacific Coast Well Drilling by this $107,415.75. So I'll pause there in case there are any questions on this item.
This is Director Donato. I'll move on 7A1. So we approve the $107,415.
This is Director Sorsabal. I'll second.
We have a motion, the second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsabal,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, measure passes. Thank you. Next item.
Thank you. So I'll continue on our presentation. Brings us to agenda item 7A2. This is associated with the measure just passed. This is consideration and possible action on filing the notice of completion and releasing the retention payment for project HDWB 20-01 with Pacific Coast Well Drilling. As I mentioned a couple times now, Pacific Coast completed all their work and they've demobilized from the site. Engineers and staff are happy with the work that they've done. That is satisfactory and complete. At this point, it's appropriate to file the notice of completion. This is a notice filed and recorded with the county, and it allows for a period of 30 days for any subcontractors to file any liens against the contractor. This is standard practice. The agency has held 5% of all progress payments in retention. That amount can be released after the 30-day period once we know that no subcontractors have filed any claims against Pacific Coast Well Drilling. We do not expect that to happen. Pacific Coast did a good job. They mostly self-performed the work. We're not anticipating any liens to come against the contractor. So with that, the High Desert Water Bank Committee and staff would recommend that the board authorize staff to file the notice of completion and release the retention payment in the amount of $240,982.99 subsequent to that 30-day filing period, as long as there are no liens filed against the contractor. I'll be happy to answer any questions on this that anyone might have.
Are there any questions for Justin? If not, could I have a motion, please?
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move approval of Word of 7A2.
Thanks, Rob.
This is Frank Donato, Director. A second that.
Thank you. If there are no more questions or discussion, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsabal,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you. Next item, please.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, agenda item 7A3, consideration and possible action on award of contract for construction of the Aqueduct turn-in, turnout structure associated with the High Desert Water Bank. This will be project HDWB 21-01. Blois Construction is the low bidder on this project in the amount of $4,805,517. Some background, we have a map of the High Desert Water Bank site here again, and you can see the red bullseye on the screen there indicates the approximate location of the new turnout structure off of the east branch of the California Aqueduct. The scope of work in this contract, high level, includes installation of a temporary cofferdam, which is a large structure inserted into the aqueduct to temporarily stop flow in that small section so the contractor can cut the new turnout structure into the side of the concrete lining. It includes all of the work associated with that actual turnout structure a metering vault, as well as a control building there on site. This project was advertised for bids back in November of 2021. We had good participation in this process, and ultimately we got 5 bids, 5 separate contractors, which we opened on January 12th of this year. There's that submitted bids, ranging from the high bid on top from Nicholas Construction to the lowest bid on the bottom from Blois Construction out of Oxnard in the amount of $4,805,517 even. You can see the engineer's estimate was $3,364,000, and the budgeted amount in our 2018 cost opinion of this project was $5,438,000. And this low bid price came in kind of right in between those 2 items. And you can see that the 3 lowest bidders there range from 4.8 to 5.1 million, so a pretty tight spread. And in fact, the low bid versus the second low bid was just under $40,000. So the price seems to be right, according to the contractors at this point in time. And Blois is a good contractor. They hold a current and active Class A general engineering contractor license. They have a very good reputation within the construction industry. Kennedy Jenks, our program manager, is currently working with Blois on a pipeline project and have worked with them in the past. And they've reported that they've had good experiences working with Blois. So,
have they been around for some time?
Yeah, they've been around for quite a while. I can't tell you offhand what that is.
Has Avek done work with them, do you know, in the past?
We have not.
Where are they located?
Oxnard. They're based out of Oxnard. Do a lot of work in the Ventura County area.
This is Director Donato. I thought they also did work for Orange County Municipality too down there in that area, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. During the committee meeting, Joe Long, our engineer from Stantec, did mention that they did some work for Orange County Sanitation District.
We also asked, did anybody call some of the previous jobs? And the JK said yes, they did.
Yeah. Yep. So we think we have good contractor, good price. So the recommendation from the High Desert Water Bank Committee and staff is that the board award a construction contract for this turnout to Blois Construction for the low bid amount of $4,805,517. And I'd be happy to answer any remaining questions that anybody may have.
If there are no questions for Justin, could I have a motion, please?
This Director Donato, my move on Board Order 783 to approve the $4,805,517 to award the contract to Blois Construction, which is the lowest bid.
This is Director Miller. Oh, go ahead.
This is Director Miller. I'll second. Thank you.
Thank you, Avek. Are there any more questions or discussion? Hearing none, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you. Next item, please.
All right, thank you. So moving on to item 7A4. This is related to the last item, which was just approved, the DWR agreement for the turnout structure. Department of Water Resources requires an agreement for construction, operation, and maintenance of facilities within the DWR right-of-way, which is where this turnout will be located. DWR provided a draft agreement to staff, which has been reviewed and found acceptable to both staff and Avek's legal counsel. And the agreement is fairly boilerplate. It contains standard language, which is typical of a turnout agreement, very similar to those the agency has previously entered into for the Upper Amargosa Creek turnout, as well as the Cajon Ranch turnout at 294th Street West, which is just out there in the same vicinity as the High Desert Water Bank. And among other things, on high level, the agreement documents DWR's permission to construct the facilities, the location of the turnout, maximum design capacity, in this case 250 CFS, the operation and maintenance responsibilities between AVEC and DWR, and the contractor responsibilities during construction related to indemnification and encroachment permits. So it's a very typical agreement required for construction of this facility. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. The agreement was included in the board packet, and the High Desert Water Bank Committee and staff recommend the board authorize the general manager to execute the DWR agreement for construction, operation, and maintenance of the High Desert Water Bank turn-in, turn-out structure. So I'd be happy to answer any remaining questions you might have.
Well, this is Shelley. I'd just like to add that our attorney, Jim Markman, reviewed the contract so that everybody knows that took place.
Good point, Shelley. If there are no questions for Justin, could we have a motion to approve, please?
This is Shelley. I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
This is Frank, Director Nato. I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dice.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Those are our 4 action items for this evening, so I'll just move on through the rest of the update presentation.
Can you hold off 1 second? Hold off 1
Yes,
second.
sir.
This would probably be a good time to ask our manager, Dwayne Chisholm, to jump in here. Dwayne, can you explain to the rest of the board what you stated regarding the money that we just approved? That Met's going to be paying for that?
Correct. This project, all the capital facilities are fully funded by Metropolitan Water District through an agreement that we have with AVEC. And as the project moves forward and costs are incurred, there's money that's placed in deposit for those. There's also consultation that's done on a regular basis with Metropolitan with regards to the costs and potential cost overruns, which we're in communication with them, and we will be discussing with the committee in next week with regards to our current project estimates.
Thank you.
All right, moving into section 5. This is very appropriate at this point, talking about the budget that Dwayne just spoke about. On the top, you can see, just kind of echoes what Dwayne just mentioned. The agreement between AVEC and Metropolitan Water District is estimated capital cost $131 million, and these funds will be fully funded by Metropolitan Water District through that agreement. You can see the various components of the project listed in that table, from pre-design, final design, construction management, administration, program, construction there at the very bottom. You can see how that $131 million has been broken down. And in the 4th column from the right, the approved contracts that the board has entered into and what that represents as far as percentage of budget. And then the payout to date and the available budget on the far right-hand side. So lower right cell of this table shows the current available budget on this project at $110,121,118. And then zooming in on the contracts, these are the 5 contracts, I guess, that AVEC has entered into at this point in time. Program management with Kennedy Jenks on the top, designed from Stantec, Pacific Coast Well Drilling. That contract will be closed out here after today. You can see that this is left over from the previous presentation, but we already had that 89,000 listed in there. So we'll add the 17 to that for the change order that was approved tonight, and we'll fully pay that contract out. So the next time you'll see this, that project will be completed. Similar to these two, which were related to the CEQA addendum, those have been fully paid out. You can see this one came in just a little bit under budget. They didn't use all the hours that they had allocated for this, so that's always good. And then moving into a summary of the capital program account, this is the account that Metropolitan's funds are deposited into to fund the activities of the project, as Dwayne mentioned. And you can just sort of see on a monthly basis what the expenditures are in this column here, and then the running balance. And you can see that Metropolitan did recently make a deposit just over $3 million, and that was for the activity from July, August, and September of 2021. And we recently invoiced them for the fourth quarter of 2021, and we should see those funds coming in shortly. So currently in the capital program account, we've got a balance of just over $4 million to pay for these activities. Moving into schedule, you can see some of the action items. Red stars indicate board items. So we had approved the turnout to be advertised for bids. Same for the well drilling. We approved a CM on-call services contract with Kennedy Jenks. The pilot well drilling was completed back in early December. And then here's the bids that were received for the turnout and the well drilling package. This one will be discussed at a future meeting. And tonight we're here with the red or the yellow diamond outlined in red, indicating a committee and board action. So tonight we approved the construction contract for the turnout as well as the TWR agreement. Stantec is supposed to be getting us the 100% design here any day. And then upcoming, we have consideration of the well drilling package and the recharge basins coming up in February. And then ultimately, once we get that out to bid, the construction contract for the recharge basins in March will be brought back to the committee and board. Any questions on the schedule here? All right. That about wraps this one up. No other items to update and no additional board action items other than the four which we discussed tonight. So with that, wraps up the presentation unless anybody has any final questions on the High Desert Water Bank project.
Good job, Justin.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin.
This is Director Miller. I do have one question for Justin.
Sure. Yes.
What is the time period it anticipated to complete that work on the aqueduct?
The aqueduct turnout itself is supposed to be completed over all of the work in this summer. So they should get started pretty quickly on the actual work in the canal while the aqueduct is operating at lower flows. And so they'll get that cofferdam in, and then that'll come out relatively quickly. And then they'll complete the remainder of the work on the dry side of the canal through spring and into summer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin. Good job. Let's move along to item 7B, Water Master Committee. Director Paris, do you have a report?
I will turn that over to Matt.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director Paris. Good evening, board. So in your packet, again on page 88, is the agenda for tomorrow's Water Master meeting. And we thought we'd take this time to update the board and go through the four items that you see on the screen listed as A, B, C, and D that are directly related to AVAC. And AVAC has some input in this. So this is a time where we provide the board an opportunity to give direction to the AVAC representative on the Water Master Board. So I'll go through each of these items listed there. The first one being reviewing the proposed calendar year 2022 replacement water assessment rate that the Water Master has to adopt each year. So historically, since 2016, AVAC has driven this process of setting the replacement water rate. Because just a reminder, replacement water is defined as imported water provided to the basin to satisfy overpumping by groundwater producers within the basin, the adjudicated basin. So AVAC sets this rate and provides that to the water master for adoption. And AVAC has historically utilized our untreated egg rate, and we take that rate adopted by the board, AVAC board, which is established through work of our outside consultant, Raftellus, financial consultants. And we account for the 10% loss that occurs through the recharge process when recharging water into the groundwater basin. So we capture that in the rate that is charged for the replacement water. So on the screen there, you can see we're proposing for the water master to adopt the 2022 rate for areas inside the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors Association boundaries at $523 per acre foot, and areas that fall outside the state water contractor boundaries at $1,055 per acre foot. And I've got a map to kind of show and explain that coming up next. Down at the bottom of the screen, you can see how the rates varied from 2016 through 2021. It's been between $415 and $498 per acre foot inside the basin and outside, or inside the state water contractor boundaries. And outside the state water contractor boundaries, $888 to $1,010. So as I mentioned, there are two rates. The red line that you see there is AVAC's existing boundary. The blue line down at the bottom is Palmdale Water District service area. And then you can see this green line here is Little Rock Creek Irrigation District boundaries. Those three agencies make up the State Water Contractors Association. And then the blue shaded boundary is the Antelope Valley Groundwater Adjudicated Basin. So you can see most of it falls within AVAC, Palmdale, and Little Rock. But there are these portions in the southeast that are within the groundwater basin that but fall outside the state water contractor boundaries. So somebody that overpumps within these blue shaded areas or outside our boundaries, they will be subject to the higher replacement water assessment rate. Then we've got a little portion over here within Edwards Air Force Base boundary, and then a little bit over here on the northwest area along the foothills of the Tehachapi Mountains. So any questions on the map there or the proposed rates for replacement water assessment? No? Okay, that will be presented tomorrow to the water master, and they will hopefully adopt these rates. One item that was brought up by the committee members of AVAC, I think it was Director Donato, was something for the water master to consider, and that is adding a administrative fee on top of this proposed rate. Because right now, 100% of that replacement water rate gets passed through and comes back to AVAC for providing the replacement water. And it was recommended that the water master should collect a small administrative fee to administer this program. So that is going to be presented tomorrow as well. So the next item is to review the most recent request from the water master for providing replacement water on funds that they've collected. So a little bit of background. Antelope Valley Water Master and the State Water Contractors Association entered into an agreement back in October of 2019 that allows for the purchase and provisions of providing replacement water to the water master. The agreement defines a process for the water master to request and purchase replacement water from the association and its member agencies of Avek, Palmdale, and Little Rock. The Water Master serves as the agency that verifies the quantity and location where the overpumping occurred, and the Antelope Valley State Water Contractor Association is tasked to develop a plan for which of the 3 member agencies will provide the requested replacement water. So this map, similar map that we just looked at, but it shows where the overproduction occurred and which parties had to pay replacement water. So as you can see on the little blue dot or the green dots, shows the physical location of where the overpumping occurred, most of which are within AVAC's service area. So therefore, AVAC, in exchange of receiving the funds from the Water Master, will provide the replacement water to satisfy the overpumping. So this table on the left shows what those parties that were highlighted in green on the previous slide, when they were assessed and how much they were assessed for which quantity of overpumping and which sub-area of the groundwater basin they're in. So a total of 1,058 acre feet was overpumped, and Water Master therefore charged those parties the replacement water assessment, and the Water Master did collect these funds from the various parties. So based on our agreement and the location where the overpumping occurred, all but 3 acre feet of that will be provided by AVAC. So AVAC will be providing 1,055.13 acre feet to the Water Master, or to the basin, I should say, in exchange for $481,113.66. So if the Water Master approves this plan tomorrow, then we'll bring back a resolution to the AVAC board at a future meeting to document this arrangement and approve the receipt of the funds in exchange of releasing 1,055 acre feet from our banked or stored water to the groundwater basin. So basically 1,055 acre feet would come off the books of what we show as being stored at our westside water bank.
Sourceable, are these all people that were not a part of the adjudication, or these people that pumped more water than they had water rights?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of individuals that were not a party to the judgment and have no production rights, but were pumping anyways, and basically got caught by the Water Master and therefore have to pay the replacement water. And then some of these folks are parties to the adjudication and simply overpumped what their production rights were.
Is the Water Master going to start aggressively going after small pumpers that were not a part of the adjudication?
So small pumpers, being the single family residents, they can pump up to 3 acre feet free of replacement water assessments. So if there's any indication that the small pumpers are pumping over 3 acre feet, then yes, they would be subject to replacement water. And the Water Master is
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Water Master is actively pursuing parties that they believe are pumping outside judgment.
Okay, and are most of these people supposed to have meters on their wells?
Yeah, the list that you see on the left there, most of those do have meters on the wells, and that's how the production was verified.
But the small pumpers, a lot of those that were not part of the judgment, do not have any type of meters. Thank you, meters on theirs. So, what are they going to do about that? Are they figuring it out from their electricity usage, or?
That is one way of estimating pumpage. Small pumpers are not required to meter unless there's an indication that they are pumping over 3 acre-feet per year. So if you're staying within the 3 acre-feet, there's no requirement that small pumpers have to be metered. But if they are indications of over 3 acre-feet per year, then yes, that is a requirement that they get metered.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, thank you. So this is what we're looking at tomorrow for the replacement water plan for the Water Master and the association. So be looking for that resolution coming back to Avek board in the future. Any other questions? All right, moving on. Next item tomorrow that has to do with AVAC is the transfer application for the water rights related to a pending property sale. So in our draft purchase and sale agreement for the Healy property, there is a provision to cooperate on processing an application to the Water Master for approval of water rights being transferred from Healy Enterprise to AVAC prior to the close of escrow. And that transfer includes both 700 acre-feet per year of permanent groundwater production right and a one-time transfer of 4,200 acre-feet of carryover water rights. The Healy Enterprise party has not pumped any of their production 700 acre-feet of production rights since 2016. So they have 5 years of that water carrying over. And that's what makes up the 4,200 acre-feet of one-time carryover water rights. So we worked with Healy Enterprise. They executed the transfer application, and AVAC staff submitted that to the Water Master for review and approval. Hopefully the Water Master Board will approve this tomorrow at its meeting, and then that transfer will not become effective until we close escrow on the property purchase. So we wanted to make sure that we got this transfer application processed by the Water Master to provide us plenty of time to work through that if there are any hiccups prior to closing escrow on the property. And lastly, the other item that's on the agenda related to AVAC is our application for 6 new recovery wells associated with the High Desert Water Bank. So we submitted an application, the Water Master engineer has reviewed it, advisory committee reviewed it, and it is being recommended for approval tomorrow by the Water Master Board. And this process is needed because I think Justin mentioned that we're getting ready to put out to bid, or we had put out to bid the next set of wells for the High Desert Water Bank. And we're looking to move forward with the award of that contract in the near future. And we wanted to make sure we had these wells approved by the Water Master, so when the well drilling contractor goes to get their health department permit, they've checked that box as complying with the Water Master. So this will be on the agenda tomorrow as well for approval by the Water Master. So those are the 4 items that we wanted to bring up to the board prior to tomorrow's meeting. But as I mentioned, the full agenda is included in your packet on page 88, and be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Excuse me, I missed slide 32. Could you go back real quick, if you don't mind? Oh, okay, it was just that cover. Okay.
Yep, no problem. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Item number 8, General Manager's Report. Mr. Chisholm.
Yes, Board President Dias, members of the board, this is the General Manager's Report for January 25th, 2022. I have some good news to report. Wanted to let you know about the state weather forecast and we have this chart here is often used. It's outlines the next 10 days of water supply or potential rainfall. You got 0 here, which is not necessarily good news, through the end of January from the 21st, and this is what they project. This is what the average is. So we normally get during this 2-week period about 2.6 inches. So we have very high snow levels, but the long-range forecasts show that we are looking at some moderate opportunities for additional weather in February and March based on those studies. Here is our chart that we have been looking at. You can see we've had a really nice October, a little shy on November. Obviously, December was well over the top for water supply. And then you can see here we're considerably below where we should be. Here's 9.1 inches. We're at 1.3 inches for January. So, but if you add the positives and the negatives here through the course of the first 4 months of the season, we're right about on average. So we're looking fairly well as long as we can get some rainfall in February and March. As you can see, it tapers down pretty considerably in April, May, and June. So we're hoping for some additional numbers here this next couple of months. And this is indicative of our 8-station review of total water supply. This blue line here is the average. You can see we go up to right about March or April, then it flattens out. And it's good to note, I want you to note here, this is January. So you can see that we're at 31.5 inches. We're still above average, but you know, it's flatlining out. So if we don't get any more rainfall, then this line would continue out and get us into this direction. But we were hoping that we'll be someplace, somewhere close to average by the end of the season. Our Lake Orville and San Luis reservoirs have improved from the rainfall and the runoff that's associated with that. You can see here that Lake Orville, we got it's 80% of our historical average and about 45% of the total capacity. Likewise, San Luis Reservoir is 57% of historical average and 41% of its total capacity. What that looks like on our charts that we look at, you can see this blue line once again is average. And you can see we're right in this area, and we're continuing to increase as we would anticipate based on what we've seen in the past. Same goes for San Luis Reservoir, and these are our current conditions as we move forward. Most of the water that was included in the 15% allocation is associated with the amount of water that's currently within the San Luis Reservoir. And as I indicated previously in the last slide, DWR has increased the state water project allocation from Table A for 15%. That gives us 21,727 acre feet. If you remember, we had health and safety water, which was a little short of 20,000 acre feet. So the 15% puts us in the same location where we were with the health and safety water because that has gone away, and we're just going to get our 15% allocation. So in looking at our supply outlook with that 15% allocation, you can see here's 21,727. We have 1,400 acre feet of carryover, gives us a little over 23,000 acre feet of state water supply, which will be sufficient to meet those peak summer demands that we have. And then this is the amounts of additional groundwater that we have within our facilities, water banks, water rights and so forth, transfers in and out. So we have about 78,000 acre feet of what we're calling water within the ground or groundwater. Most of that is recoverable table A water, but we're just categorizing the two of them. And we're planning on using about 20,000 of this total amount of water that we have here in order to meet customer demands in 2022. And we'll see if, based on the studies that I seen earlier this week, in the DWR call, we may be up to 25% if we get any kind of rainfall at all in February and March. And that would certainly make this much better going into 2023, where we would have a carryover balance that we'd be able to utilize.
Brian, this is Shelley. I have a question on that last slide. Why are we including the Healy Ranch water when we haven't even purchased it yet?
Well, it's just this is just a planning document to make sure that we allocate all of the water that we have. If for some reason we do not move forward, then we would take those off those totals.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure the board understood that was on there.
Yeah, this is just a planning document, and you know, even these numbers, all these numbers might change just a little bit, but I just wanted to give the board and the public a level of comfort that it looks like from 2022 that we won't have to acquire any additional outside water supplies, that we'll be able to utilize the water that we have on hand to meet 2022 demands. Conventional treatment, you can see the various plants here. We have 118 million gallons of total capacity. We're only using 8. We had a couple of shutdowns in January, so it's a very, very low month. The East Side Water Bank, this is our geopurification and treatment from our wells. You can see we're getting about 12.2 million gallons a day coming from those sources of supply. As far as banking goes, the only banking we're doing is on the east side, which we're utilizing that for water quality purposes. We're putting it in and taking it out. As far as water quality updates go, we did get our fume hood recertified by OSHA, and so that's a good thing. Also, we've maintained all of our water quality standards during the various pump shutdowns, and our annual report is being prepared and be submitted to the health department for review. As far as our operation and maintenance, they've been very busy with the shutdowns. We can show, here's a pipeline that was excavated. This is on the North Feeder up near Edwards Air Force Base. We've had this on the agenda for quite a while, and we were able to get this work done. We'll have to have another shutdown again next year. And this is some of the inside, some of the areas that are normally underwater, where we're doing some repair work on various facilities here, and similar picture here. And then we also did have a water leak, a fairly sizable water leak in between the two buildings, and we were able to, our own maintenance department was able to make that repair. The rest of our water treatment plant maintenance projects are going along very well. So, some other good news is JPIA has once again recognized Avek for its very low loss ratio, and that's basically it's calculated by our total losses divided by our total premiums, and for 20% or less, then that's considered very good. and we get a President's Special Recognition Award for all three of our programs. That included liability, property, and workman's compensation. As far as our events and schedules, we have a Water Master meeting that's coming up the 26th. We have a public hearing for our redistricting on the 9th of February. The AB State Water Contractors Association, the local unit, is on the 10th of February. Urban Water Institute Conference is February 16th to the 18th at Palm Springs. I will be out of the office next week for a couple of days on vacation. And other than that, I'll be in the office assuming my health maintains itself. So that's where we're at today. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Dwayne, this is Shelley. The Urban Water Institute conference has been canceled.
Oh, it has? Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know because I'm on the board, so
okay.
They notified us.
All right. So there isn't a Urban Water a conference in Palm Springs in February.
There is not. They're going to have one in the fall, hopefully.
Okay. Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, I've noticed there was another conference that was postponed till July just to let the COVID issues resolve themselves. So.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dwayne. Item 9, are there any directors' reports? Hearing none, we'll move along to item 10, attorney's report. Jim, anything?
Nothing, Keith.
Thank you. Item 11, are there any requests for future agenda items? If not, we can move along to item 12, if there is a need to go into closed session tonight.
Yes, we have two items, B and C.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to go into closed session for items 12B and 12C?
Also, this is George Lane, also move, Mr. President.
Thank you, George.
This is Director Miller. I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorcible,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dice.
Yes, the measure passes. So we will be going into closed session momentarily. Thank you all very much.